Just kind of imagine what Canada was like 30 years ago. If you're new to the country, welcome. But I just want to tell you what happened. Well, tell you what happened back then. For those of you may remember, it was a huge year in Canada. 30 years ago, Quebecers voted no for the first time. Thankfully, we settled that. It never came up again after that. Pierre Trudeau, 30 years ago, was elected for the 4th time. Probably why we had another referendum, at least to some. 30 years ago, O Canada officially became our national anthem. Officially. It had been used since 1939, but we're Canadians. We just weren't sure. I don't know. 30 years ago, Gordie Howe retired at the age of 52. Chris Chelios got close this year. But the thing about this country that happened 30 years ago that nothing can top is Terry Fox. Terry Fox and his Marathon of Hope happened 30 years ago. If Terry were alive today, he'd be 52. And, you know, what I love so much about this country of ours is that we celebrate lots of people, but we don't create big stars in this country for a reason, because we're just kind of all the same. But every now and then we sort of hang our hat near somebody, and one of them is no doubt Terry Fox. And we all know this: nobody is who they are without their mom. Betty Fox is on her way into the studio right now, and I'm really looking forward to having her. Here's your bio. Good job.
George, if a child truly is a product of their parents, then Betty Fox must be a pretty amazing woman. 30 years ago, her son Terry captivated the nation with his Marathon of Hope, running across Canada to raise money and awareness for cancer research.
We can find a cure if we all really try.
It was a public campaign, but a very personal mission. Terry was diagnosed with bone cancer and had his right leg amputated at 18. 3 years later, on April 12, 1980, he set off on his cross-country journey from Newfoundland. He made it 143 days and 5,280 kilometers before he had to stop in Thunder Bay. The cancer had spread to his lungs.
We got to go home and try and do some more treatment.
Terry died 9 months later, but left an indelible mark. He raised more than $23 million for cancer research. And the annual Terry Fox Run has now raised more than $400 million around the world.
Even today, sometimes you sort of have to pinch yourself and say, my gosh, this is all over the world.
Terry will always be remembered as a national hero, which is why many campaigned to have Betty light the Olympic cauldron at the Vancouver Games. That honor went to Wayne Gretzky, but Betty was one of 8 chosen to carry the Canadian flag at the opening ceremonies.
How are you? Thanks for coming on the show. You've seen it every day, the reaction that people have towards Terry and the Marathon of Hope. 30 years ago. That's a long time. When you reflect, what pops into your mind?
30 years ago, there wasn't the number of people that knew about Terry as there is today. And I know when Terry had to stop because of the return of cancer, right away he asked the Canadian people to continue on his dream, not to forget that cancer research was so important and the money was really needed here in Canada for research. And it's just gone so far that I'll never find the right words to explain why 30 years later there's still a Terry Fox Run, and people, even little tiny children who aren't even in school yet, know all about Terry, and oh, it's fabulous.
What a complicated relationship with the legacy you have, because there's so much beauty that comes out of it, so much positivity, so much money raised, far exceeding Terry's initial goal, but it's your son. So you're the mother, and you still deal with it on a very daily basis. Has it felt that way?
Oh, definitely. It's not easy. It's never been easy. Myself, along with a couple of businessmen in Toronto, got the Terry Fox Run going, and it was very difficult in those days, but somehow or other I guess because I don't travel as much, it's harder today for me to sit and talk about Terry and not get too emotional, because when you talk about things, it brings up some items that you've forgotten all about, which is good, but it's sad. It is. But I personally, and I think my Terry's dad and his sister and brothers feel the same way, that, you know, they're here doing Terry's job. They're working towards Terry's dream. And I know personally myself, I do not make a decision without thinking very clearly how Terry would have done it, made it himself.
It's a big part of it. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but for the Terry Fox run and some of the rules and the setups, Terry wrote them himself.
Well, he didn't really write them, but yes, there were some that he certainly gave to us. No commercialization, no...
Like no winners?
No winners, no anything like that. And thank God he did. In the early years, it was very, very difficult to say no. It was a great idea, great support from a company or whatever, but it wasn't, cancer research wasn't the #1 thing. And so for me, it was really difficult to say no. I think people hated me in the first, well, maybe they still do, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't. And if they do, we don't really care what they think.
But it was a difficult making the decisions, but to stay true to Terry's wishes and what he wanted, I never changed, and I haven't today, 30 years later. We could, but why would we?
Well, it's raised an enormous amount of money.
Yeah, over 500 million. 100 million, is that right?
I think initially Terry's goal